What's going on, world? It's yours truly, Mazi Mutafa, here for episode 18 of No New Leaders, a show we do every Sunday, really dedicated to the idea of leadership. And this week will be a little different because I will be the only host that is here, to the best of my knowledge. And so I decided to do something a little different. We're coming up on the new year, and one of the things that does for a lot of people, myself included, is make you start to be reflective about kind of what's going on in your life and the world, what you hope to do, et cetera, et cetera. And so that actually led me to have a conversation with my stepfather yesterday about kind of the state of the world and politics and what's happening in America in particular. And we had some very different opinions about what the biggest challenges are and how to resolve them. And I decided to really be transparent with him in a way that I actually never have been, and shared a number of mistakes that I made as a young person that he never knew about. He never knew about them because I never got caught making those mistakes. And so that led to a kind of conversation about accountability and about leadership. And I thought it was perfect as a kind of continuing topic to have here, um, in part because I've been thinking about that conversation for the last day and realizing that so much of what I think about leadership and organizations and community really was shaped by my experience in my family. And I think that I'm not alone in that. I think that actually many of us, whether it's a faith community that we're a part of, or uh, an academic community we're a part of, a neighborhood that we live in, that the places that we are help shape us and the things that we think and do. And so I know for myself, there are really four leaders that have played the biggest role in shaping the way that I think about myself and the work that I do and the life that I'm living. And those four leaders are my mother, my father, my stepfather, and my grandfather. And I want to talk about that in part because I feel like the being transparent about being 45 years on this planet now, and really looking back over the course of my life, that I see how my understanding, that of a child, of the ways in which my grandfather and my mother and my stepfather and my father impacted the way that I think and the way that I am, is still with me to this day. And I think that's true for a lot of people. I think it's true for a lot of people. Either, there's a lot of talk right now, especially among people my age and maybe a little bit younger, about this idea of breaking generational curses. And I'll be honest, I've always thought that sounded really corny. Like, what do you mean you're breaking generational curses? What kind of curses are on your life? That, like, first off, what's a curse? You mean patterns? You mean traditions? You mean things that maybe don't serve you anymore? And so that is probably in part what they mean. So I would never describe these things as kind of generational curses, but I would describe them as things that I learned along the way from people that I love. And I think that is true for a lot of us. And I think that thinking about the role that your parents, particularly if you were fortunate enough to have parents or grandparents or aunties and uncles in your life, what kind of role they played in shaping you, either directly or indirectly, because so much of what we've learned over the course of our lives is observational. It's not because someone sat us down and taught us a lesson. It's really because we just watched how other people operated in the world. So, as an example, my mother is a Puerto Rican Venezuelan woman who was born in the Bronx, New York, who grew up in an abusive home, who was taken away from her mother at that time to be put in foster care. And so, just thinking about that, as much as any of us know about the foster care system who haven't been in it, it's not really a great place for young people, even though it might be safer in some instances than the homes they come from. I know my mother also, as a teenager, was homeless for a period of time, literally living on the streets of New York. She didn't have a place to go, and I think those experiences, as I've learned more about them as an adult, because she didn't tell me about these things when I was a kid. And to be honest, I didn't learn a lot of the things about my mother's life until after she passed away. Um, but the struggle that she went through shaped how the kind of mother that she would be, the kind of person she would be. And so things like developing guards, being guarded when she'd meet strangers, was a natural and important protection mechanism. And I'll be honest, I very much so adopted that approach. When I meet a stranger, I'm like, that phrase we learned as children called stranger danger. I've definitely embodied it. Like, I don't know you. I don't know that I should trust you. And so I'm guarded, I'm distant, I'm reserved. But once I feel like I know you and I feel like I can trust you, it changes the way I interact with you. And this is important because I've had instances as a manager in my company where when someone first starts, they feel like, oh, Mazi doesn't like me. And I'm bringing this up not because it's just about unpacking my own baggage, but really about how all leaders, all managers, all people that work with other people are bringing a set of experiences into every experience that they have. Um, some of which are good and some of which are bad. Some of which, once you recognize them, you got to decide: does this really still serve me, or is it not useful? I'll be honest. I think that one still serves me because I actually want to take time to observe and get to know people before I really open up with trust. But I recognize where my mother got that from. Now, I didn't know that while she was alive. I just thought she would just be gruff and difficult for no reason. And there were real good reasons. There were great reasons that she had put in place as a young person to protect herself that now impact me as her child as a grown up. My stepfather was in many ways raised by his oldest sister. He stopped living with his mother fairly young and was raised by his older sister. My grandfather, his father was murdered when he was around 12 or 13 years old. My biological father, he was the child of a 12-year-old girl in um, Alabama. She was 12 when she had him. She didn't know she was pregnant. Literally birthed him into a toilet, and so he didn't have a father that was there. And so I realized probably about 10 years ago that I had been raised by three generations of men, or two groups of men from two different generations who didn't have fathers that were there to raise them. So how is it that I was learning about manhood, masculinity, fatherhood, community from men who, for the most part, were raised by um, women who were in their family, or my mother, who was in part a ward of the state? How are these people passing on traditions, helping to cultivate community and family? And what am I learning from them that's going to apply to my life and kind of the way I exist in the world? Again, I bring this up because I feel like one of the things that maybe more of us should do is to think about who are the people that shaped us? What are the experiences that we've had that or witnessed that play a role in the way we think about ourselves, our lives, our communities, the work that we do? Whether you're a leader or a manager or a follower, whatever it is, however it is you label yourself, how did you get to where you are? Who are those people? And so I just wanted to share a little bit because I was doing some reflecting on the things that I learned from my mother. Um, one of those things that I learned because my mother came from an abusive home was she was an example of how to break what people call today generational curses. My mother never abused her children at all. She decided she was going to be the last person in her family that would be abused. And I think that's important because the leadership principle I take from that is that cycles can be broken. Just because something has always been a particular way doesn't mean it actually needs to continue to be that way. And she applied that to herself as a person and to her family unit. But now I can apply that in the work that I do and the way that I think about how to tackle challenges that seem to be insurmountable, seem to have always existed. But just because it's existed doesn't mean it has to continue to exist. That you can break cycles. Um, I mentioned this a second ago. It's okay to be guarded. Is another thing that my mother taught me. But she also taught me it's okay to put your guard down. This is important as we talk about coalition building, if we talk as we talk about, expanding our networks, building community, that um, it's natural for strangers to not trust each other. But once you create opportunities to gain trust, how do you actually actualize that? I'm sure most people don't even know why do most people shake hands with their right hand because most people are right-handed. And it was literally a practice. You shake with your right hand because if you're shaking hands with your right hand, I know you don't have a weapon in it. Literally, our customs and traditions and practices are rooted in our own experiences as a species of distrust. But I can bring this back to my own family and say, if I'm a person that loves you, you know that I love you. And if I don't know you that well, you also know that I don't know you that well. And I don't hide that. And I feel like that's actually important for me as a person to be genuine with the people that I interact with, to be like, I'm not a super happy, smiley person. I know lots of people are, and that's who they are. And I love those people. But I'm a person that really has to warm up to you. And that's part of my own leadership journey that I can trace back to being a witness to the way my mother interacted with people. Now, my stepfather, on the other hand, he is the life of the party. He is the person that everybody loves and comes to. So part of what I learned from him was that kindness matters. The kindness really does matter. As we're thinking about the ways in which leaders operate, if you meet a person who has a great vision but treats people like trash, that's not a leader. That's a person that's in charge of some things, but that's not. I feel like kindness has to be one of the principles that you're incorporating into your life, into your practice. If you're going to work with other people, you actually have to care about other people. So kindness matters, and I think that's especially important that my father and my stepfather and my mother were so opposite upon meeting strangers, but when they met, they worked. And so this idea that the people that you can collaborate with, that you can build with, are not always going to be like you. That it's okay to work with people who are very different than you and be able to apply that kind of principle to how it is that you build community. Everybody is not the same, will not be the same, is unlikely to ever be the same. And so sameness can't be a barrier to being able to work with people. Again, if you're just tuning in, I'm sharing some of the things that upon reflection about my first four teachers of leadership, my parents and my grandfather, being able to apply the things that I saw them do and that they did with me or for me, um, in understanding how it is that I approach management or leadership, coalition building. And I think that more of us should spend time thinking about what are the things that our grandparents or our parents or aunties and uncles, the people that are the closest to us, what are the roles that they played in shaping how does we think about ourselves? How does we think about what it is that we do in the world, whether that's a job or volunteer opportunities or the way that we're raising children? How have those people shaped it? Like right here in the background, I've got a picture of my grandfather when he was probably a little bit younger than I am. He had a much fuller head of hair. And I have that picture there because I always want to be reminded um, that he's there, right? Same thing right here. This picture just above my head. This is my mother. This is one of the first pictures I ever took while we lived in Calcar, Germany. And she's right next to a staff picture of a bunch of Words, Beats, and Life people at Malcolm X Park. I have these pictures up. My father's here at my high school graduation. I have these pictures behind me because these are literally the people that have had my back, have helped to shape me to be the person that I am. Um, One of the other things I love about knowing more about my mother's story, I knew that she had been in foster care as a child, but I didn't know that she had run away, that she was homeless for a period of time, and that once she met my father and got pregnant in Atlanta, that one of the first things she did after she had me was decided to enlist in the Air Force and move to Calcar, Germany. Um, Shout out to you too, RBI. Moved to Calcar, Germany. Why do I bring that up? Because it's only now, like literally today, as I was preparing for the show, I was thinking about this idea that you can always go in a different way. You can always take another route. That whatever has happened in your life or whatever's happened in your organization, in your program, in your effort, you can always go in a different direction. You don't have to do what you've always done. And I think that, some of these things are just common sense, but just being able to lift them up to say these are principles of leadership that many of us hopefully learn from family, learn from experience, and apply as we work to try to make the world a better place for more people. Um, One of the things that my father taught me, because there's a story behind how my mother got custody of me after I was born. At first, I went to live with my grandmother who took care of me initially, and then my mother got custody of me and then moved to Calcar, Germany. One of the things that my father did was really dedicate himself to mastering himself and his future. This idea that he decided that education was going to be the road um, towards the path that he wanted, towards the destination that he wanted. And then once he got his degree, he decided he was going to dedicate himself to building that road for other young people, particularly in New York City. And this idea that your work can actually be your purpose is something I witnessed. He never told me that. He never sat me down and said, Mazi, I think your work can be. He just showed me through his life that he was dedicated to giving access to a thing that made a difference in his life to young people all over New York City, regardless of what their racial, ethnic, country of origin, age, economic status, that education could be a transformational opportunity for them. And I understand that's why, for me, this idea of promoting college is still core. Not because college is the only way, or even necessarily the best way for today, but it is a way that's worked for a lot of people that could continue to work for a lot of people. My work, I think, as I think back over my life, going to visit him in Brooklyn when he worked for the State University in New York, I'd spend my summers watching him and a team of people trying to find money and scholarships and opportunities for young people in New York City to be able to take advantage of the State University of New York's resources. And I was there watching and sitting in on meetings and just being exposed to the idea that college could be an option. I'll be honest, those were seeds that were planted that did not actually begin to sprout until I was graduating from high school. So sometimes this is another thing that I feel like I've learned by just looking back over my own life. Sometimes you're going to sow seeds into the lives of people that you will not be the reason that those seeds grow. At best, you can sow those seeds or plant those seeds, maybe water them, but you can't control whether or not there's going to be sunlight on them. You can't control whether or not birds are going to come along and eat them. You can only control the sowing and maybe the watering. But this idea that we can be invested in other people, I saw at a very early age. I saw some of the challenges, the battles that would happen in the staff around decision making, which were probably rooted in my father's own experience of not having a father. Like, a lot of stuff goes back to the family. I was hoping to get DJ RBI to be on with me, but he's doing something more important, truly, than being here on this show. So I wanted to talk to him about the role that his father played in shaping him as a musician, as an organizer, as a collector of records, as a keeper of culture. Because the more I get to know the people in my life that do this work, the more I realize I need to know more about their families. I need to know more about where they come from, because those things have played an integral role in shaping the choices that they're making on how to use their time, how to use their talent, and who they're going to invest in. So if you're just tuning in, because I see a couple people just tuning in, I'm talking a little bit about the role that my mother, my father, my stepfather, and my grandfather played in shaping the way that I think about leadership. And I would say, to be honest, for the better and for the worse. But I don't think any of it's actually for the worse. I think it's just for the stuff that could be for the worse. Could have been for a season that helped me to get to this point. So I've talked about the fact that my mother showed me that you could break cycles just by making different choices about how it is you would raise your children, or what kind of career you would pursue. That it's okay to be guarded, but it's also okay to let people in. And you'd be surprised how many people you would meet that are in leadership roles that are really super guarded, who are dealing with various traumas that they haven't shared, or haven't dealt with. And so just kind of respecting kind of where people are in their own journey to be connected with other people. Um, that my father taught me that work could be your purpose, that I don't actually have a job at Words Beats Life. I literally have a job, but it's really my purpose. I get up every day and work with people who I enjoy working with, who inspire me, who motivate me, and I hope I do the same for them. And this isn't just a job; it's the thing that I do to try to make the world more of what I hope a lot of us want it to be. Um, I also talked about kindness mattering, being a lesson that my stepfather taught me. Um, One of the other things that I think that especially for people in the nonprofit sector, and this is probably true in the corporate and the government, or all the sectors, enjoying the time you spend with people. The teams that you build, the teams that you're a part of, none of them are going to be forever. Enjoy it. Enjoy the time that you're going to spend with the people that you're working with. Even that person in your office you can't stand, they're not going to be there forever. Even that person on your team who keeps saying no to everything you ask them to do, they're not going to be there forever. You got to enjoy them. And that was, again, a lesson that my stepfather taught me. Um, One of the things that I think is super important, and literally in preparing my notes for this, I thought about the fact that a lesson my stepfather taught me is that responsibilities are yours once you take them on. How does that apply? So, like, I'm not his biological child, but I'm his son, and he raised me. and he taught me everything that he possibly could with what it is that he had. And that was a choice. Leadership, just like, a lot of times on this show, we talk about leadership being a choice, that choosing to get involved in your community is a choice. And once you make that choice, you're responsible. You're responsible either for the ways in which you engage or the ways in which you help other people to engage. And that's a beautiful thing. Responsibility. We talk about accountability a lot on this show, but it's also about responsibility. And I'm saying I learned that lesson witnessing a man take on problems and challenges of a child that was not his own. Um, my grandfather was married 4 times. So one of the things he taught me was love the ones you're with. This idea that, again, very few things are forever. Enjoy them while they last. Be the very best that you can be, and bring the most you have to bring to the table while you're at the table. Because there's no guarantee that that table will be there tomorrow. Um, Take pride in your family and your culture and your traditions. Like, one of the major things, we just did a gathering of our fellows last week, and one of the fellows was from Chicago, and she's like, "But where's the ritual in this gathering? We are a people of ritual." So lifting up the rituals and the traditions of the people that are part of your work is critical, and it's critical because it's a kind of, the ceremonies of being and doing matter. They matter because in many instances, the participation in those rituals is the thing that people remember the most. It's like that Maya Angelou quote that says, um, when people show you who they are, listen. There's also another quote that says, people rarely remember what you say, but they do remember how what you said made them feel. How are you affirming the identities, the experiences of the people that are in your circle, in your community, at your place of work? This is a challenge. This is a leadership challenge. It's a management challenge. How are you affirming the experiences, the identities, the culture, the traditions of the people who are in your circle? One of the things I love that we've been doing at Words Beats in Life for the last 2 years is lifting up hip hop communities. This month is Indigenous Peoples Month, so we're lifting up First Nation hip hop artists that are visual artists and musicians and singers, like lifting up the traditions and the people doing that work, even if it's not you. Um, I think there's real value in that, and I hope that that is the kind of thing that the people that work at Words Beats in Life will take with them. That it's not just about your own individual identity, but about the identities of the people that are part of your community, your circle, your tribe. So I wanted to just do this kind of short discussion. I'm not sure if my audio is breaking up because my video seems to be pausing a little bit. Hopefully my audio is coming through. Um, Another thing that my grandfather taught me was to always have a hustle. I remember the first time I met him, he was actually a cab driver in New York City. He wasn't one of those people that drove a yellow cab. He had his own cab where people would call and schedule the ride. But before that, he was a bouncer. Before that, he was a bartender. Before that, my grandfather was low key a kind of an enforcer. If you ever saw him, this picture with the suit behind me, he was a pretty muscular dude. So he was an enforcer because his father was part of the mafia, um, and so, or at least that's what he thinks. Um, and so he always had another job. He always had another opportunity, another way for him to be able to provide for himself and his family. And I think about myself in some ways as being the provider, the hustler, the person that's going out getting things done or making things happen for the people that are part of the community that I'm a part of. And so there's not just one way to do that. There's lots of different ways to do that. Lots of different ways for us to provide service, but also make a difference. And I'm not even gonna lie, like, preparing for the show made me think about all this stuff in ways that was not at the forefront of my mind. And so since it wasn't at the forefront of my mind, I'll just operate under the assumption that it's not on the forefront of most of our minds. The ways in which the people that raised us, not just our parents, but grandparents and even people in your community, what kind of impact did they have in shaping the way that you think about yourself and what's possible and how to do things, like how to show up. These things are critical. If you're going to be a leader or a manager or an organizer, how are you showing up? I'm super cognizant of the fact that I don't smile a lot. And it's not because I'm sad or I'm mad. I just have a resting mozzie face. It's just this. But I know for a stranger, it's like, oh, that dude, he's got negative. No, it's just how I've been raised, you know. And so I think it's important for all of us to begin to do the work to unpack not just why we do what we do, but who are the people that are responsible for helping shape us. Don't be laughing at me, RBI. If you couldn't make the time to be here, I don't even know why you in the chat. Um, Resting Mozzie face. Yes, yes, yes. I'm not gonna call myself out of my name. Um, so these are great. Usually, the way that I approach, any conversation is more questions than answers. I think that in thinking about the fact that I was fortunate enough to be raised by a mother, two fathers, and a grandpa, like I recognize that that's a real privilege. And I also understand that, having those people in my life shaped more than just my experiences as a grandson or as a child, but really have impacted me as a husband, as an organizational leader, as a big brother. I have four younger siblings. Um, and these people help shape the person I am today for better and for better. Let's not say for worse, for better and for better. Um, and I'm grateful to them. And I really just wanted to take this time, as you know, we're getting ready to wrap up this Gregorian calendar year, to think about and thank them for not just providing food, clothing, and shelter, but for teaching me lessons, directly and indirectly through their actions. And I hope that the value of those lessons has shown up in the kind of work that I've been able to do over particularly the last 20 years through Words, Beats, and Life. But I also think going forward, recognizing that some of the things, they served me for a season, and some things are past their season, over season, to kind of speak to the previous show we just had on for Eats Plus Beats. Over seasoning is not a good thing. It's not good for health. It's not good for taste. It's not a good thing. So some things we got to be prepared to just leave behind. I'll probably do this again on another day where I don't have any co-hosts, but I want to thank those of you that tuned in just for letting me share a little bit of my story. I love my teachers. As I continue to unpack the things the additional things that they've taught me, I'll be happy to share those. But yeah, I just wanted to thank you all for tuning in. If you're not already, please subscribe to the Words, Beats, and Life YouTube channel. I think we're 2 subscribers away from monetization, which will help support the work we're doing. If you don't know about Words, Beats, and Life, I'm going to go ahead and play a quick video for you. All right? Thank you all for tuning in. Peace.
Enrolling in the Academy is really simple. You'll just go to our website, wblinc.org/academy. And when you get here, you'll see our main page and you can click enroll and it'll take you to this form where you're just gonna fill this out. It'll take you about 5 minutes. Once you submit this, you're enrolled in the Academy and you'll receive an email from me so you can pick the classes you'd like to take and join our Academy family. So we're an after-school program rooted in hip hop. So we have a bunch of classes that you may find interesting. You can go right to our website and go to our classes tab and you'll see some of them, from performing arts like hip hop theater, spoken word, hip hop dance, some of our business classes that are like a boss and walk it like I talk it, which would be more arts management and entrepreneur based. And then we also have things like our music classes, emceeing and rapping and beat production and DJing. You can go to wblinc.org/academy to enroll.